Now, before you heard the sound, now.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a really what seems like a personal reaction that comes up, a very strong emotional personal reaction. Um, a few months ago, I ended a relationship because there seemed to be a lot of unnecessary drama and conflict,
Yes.
and I thought I had left it behind when I ended the relationship, but it seems to have followed me into a new relationship, very
Mm.
similar dynamics playing, and yeah, it seems like the two of us have brought our pasts into the relationship with us, you know, and to give you an example of how it kind of happens here, I'll just be feeling fine, you know, I'll be feeling at peace and great, and the relationship is good, and then I'll get a text asking, "Are we okay?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of something that's playing in her, and instead of just saying, "Yeah, we're okay,"
Mm.
this like volcano
Mm.
starts to erupt inside, uh, and the past relationship is kind of projected onto this present situation, and expectations of, you know, having to spend a lot of time and effort trying to you know um justify and kind of like support and clarify and all of these things that but the kind of the really personal thought that comes up here is, why are you disturbing my peace
Mm. Mm.
unnecessarily?
Mm.
And I can see that that's a very personal, like, because that's obviously the mind saying, why are you disturbing my peace? It's
Yeah.
obviously the mind that's disturbed.
Yeah.
um yeah, so I'm hoping that by just, you know, laying it out, that you know, maybe you'll just sweep it away, and it'll all be good.
Okay. Thank you. It's a good start. It's a good start to satsang. And just when I was starting to wonder how we'll enter into this conversation, you zeroed in very beautifully on one trigger, and you identified it very well, saying, "Why are you disturbing my peace?" No. So, and you've been with me long enough. So, do you want to take a stab at deconstructing that for everyone? Why? You can start with why. You can start with peace. You can start with any part of the sentence.
Yeah. Well, I remember you saying the answer to the question why is always consciousness. Like there's no real. It's just something that plays. It could be just some residual um, trauma, karma, something playing out. um, Taking it personally is because of identification with uh, this person who is a doer, and and kind of identification with it, another person who is a doer, who is doing
Yeah.
something that this person doesn't want them to do. And
So, okay, very good, very good. Let me share a bit more about this because, firstly, and this is a contagion across most spiritual seekers, they become like peacekeepers. You know, I found the peace with great difficulty. Now I'm just going to guard this peace. You see? So I went looking for freedom, but I've just become a guard. You see, I'm just guarding my freedom all the time. And we feel like something from outside can come and shake my peace. But what has to happen really before you can be shaken? You see, and I'm not talking about the state of peace, which could be, oh, some feeling is there, the mind is less noisy than usual. You see, and even if the feeling changes and the mind becomes noisier, is that what we call disturbance now?
No, I have to. I have. It's because I believe in the idea that the mind is selling me that, or even me, but the mind is selling that
Yeah.
this piece is in danger. Because when the this kind of sensation of like a volcano of emotion erupting, and this like storm cloud of ash and everything, it seems to obscure the the awareness, uh, except I can see now that that's seen, so it's seen by the awareness. um I'm never so blind that I can't see, and yeah, coming into satsang, I just like feeling, just connecting in with the vibe. Everything is just like,
Yes, but I'm giving you a superpower, no? I'm giving
mm,
you a superpower which allows you to not be so concerned about the states which may be coming. So, for
mm,
example, that even now, if you did not get a response which was nice, suppose you got a like uncharacteristically angry response from
yeah,
something, and so some resistance, anger,
yeah,
whatever, something can come, you see. But even that, as we've seen, even in the case of Guruji, for example, turned out to be very auspicious for him, you see. So this idea that I know what state should come, and
mm,
I know better than consciousness what should arise for me, and only from that perspective can we end up becoming a guard to particular states or situations, you see. And I see it everywhere. Some people want to guard their enthusiasm, some people want to guard their peace, some people want to guard their joy, some people want to guard various whatever else comes up. you
mm,
can you can become a guard to whatever you feel, or you have an idea that this is better
mm,
than everything else, you see. But like you rightly said, your truth, that awareness that you are, remains untouched by anything that is perceived. You
mm,
see, and every perception is just a perception. It doesn't have the tangibility, the real sense to hurt you or affect you in any sort of way.
yeah,
So, so independent of whatever the perception may be, you see that you remain untouched by any of that.
mm,
So, so what the mind tries to do is it tries to use this discovery to try and control or change life and the way life operates now, because we are apparently more free, we are finding ourselves. You see, then it tries to find evidence of that in this waking state. But the waking state is free, just like a dream,
mm,
to bring whatever it has to bring. You see? So allow whatever state is coming to come up, because
mm,
freedom is not to have the state just exactly the state that my mind wants. I want to just have that state. Freedom means everything can come and go. You see, what kind of freedom would it be if I have to be on guard all the
mm,
time?
mm,
Say, you see, and to be honest, it sounds like a very innocent sort of message saying, are you okay? And I know you realize that. So it could come from some other condition, or it could just be a very innocent question. We don't know, you see. But the thing is that you're absolutely right in the way you saw it, and you saw that it's not the message in itself, but the conditions which get reminded of. You see, the baggage which a relationship seems to bring. which gets activated. Now, we don't know whether that getting activated is actually auspicious or not. I would, in fact, lean on the side of it being auspicious, because if it gets activated, maybe it is time for you to see through it now. You see, instead of playing the same game over and over again for I don't know how long and I don't know how many lifetimes, maybe it is time to just see and say, okay, the question is, are we okay? Are we okay? Yes. That's it. So it could become as simple as that, and even if it is no, it could just be no, because this is what we seem to be bringing out in each other, whatever, right? That is not the important part of this conversation. So so um, so trust whatever life is bringing up, you see, and don't make any set of perceptions into a better state that we must reside in,
Yeah.
you see, that I have to live like this, you see. And that's why I was saying the other day, whether we are in this so that we can be happy according to our mind's construct of being happy, or are we in this just because we want, really, we are tired of the lies and we
Yeah.
just want what is true, you see. Now, that truth, don't look for evidence of that in the way life is playing out, you see, because what is happening actually is that when you're judging your partner,
Mm.
you're actually judging your own freedom,
Mm.
and that is what is troubling you more,
Mm.
because you may have an idea of an unshakable peace, but when something comes and it shakes it up, then you start to, maybe many of us do this, that we start to question our own spiritual progress, you see,
Yeah.
and that frustrates us even more. So you see,
Yeah.
and that ends up coming out in our relationships with our partner, because we're like, oh, I'm still getting shaken up by this, and this is not right. She
Yeah.
always brings it out in me, and this is not what I want a relationship to be.
Yeah.
What is troubling us is that because we have a construct of what freedom looks like, then when life shows up, that life cannot be in service to any construct like that, and usually pushes the button the other way,
Yeah.
then what happens is that the mind uses that and tries to convince you that you're not really as free as you think you are. You see,
Yeah.
more than any partner, it is these kind of things which bother us more. You see, um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we want to live on that, on the zenith, on the peak of this mountain called enlightenment, and something seemingly pulls us down from that. So, and we don't like that about ourselves, that we still have that tendency to go down. So we say, okay, who's responsible for this, you see? And the usual one in this in these cases is the relationship, you see. That is the
Yeah.
most obvious one to that we can place our blame on, you see. So a lot of, in fact, we can have a whole satsang just on this, because you captured very well this whole notion of why, you see, as if we know any why, you see.
Yeah.
Oh, and freedom actually in one way is to not need a reason, you see. We stop relying on our capacity to reason, to be, you see. So the state of being in the human condition seems to be so reliant on needing a cause for everything, or needing a reason for everything, and it can seem like I'm not really on top of my game, you see, if I don't know
Mm.
why. You see, I know why this, I know why I wake up, I know why I have this relationship, I know why I come to this satsang and not that satsang. You see, we
Yeah.
seem to have reason for everything, but actually, we don't have a single reason at all,
Yeah.
which is true.
Yeah.
You see, so
And
and
yeah.
the mind loves, as you've heard often from me, but many new ones here today. But the mind loves the why question, isn't it?
Mm.
You see, and it
Mm.
doesn't like the who question as much. And the change, you know this, you've heard this often, but the change is just one alphabet, no? Change the Y to a O, and that's all it is. But we notice the tendency of the mind to always present this why question,
Yeah.
because it's a facade. You see, it's
Mm.
a mask, another mask, and we seem to build a house of reasons,
Yeah.
feel like we figured out life. You see, so one example I could give you, which is subtle and maybe rampant in much of spirituality, is that we feel like, what is the reason for my existence, or what is the best way I can exist? It must be in a particular state of peace. You see, or even the words of satsang like openness and emptiness may get understood as if I'm talking about some state that you have to be in, you see.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking about openness and emptiness, I'm talking about non-judgmental, I'm talking about conceptual emptiness, you see, where we are not interpreting what is showing up. It
Mm.
is not about trying to maintain a particular state of openness or something like that, you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
to non-interpretive or a notionless existence is what I'm talking about. But the mind can hear it as if it is just, oh, this is my room. You see, this is my room, and in this room, only good stuff can come. Joy can come, peace can come. Anger, no, no, you are not allowed. You see, you go back where you came from. You are not allowed in here. You see, so who is that for then?
Mm.
Who is anger for, if not for you? You see, it cannot be that God has made this recipe, you see, and cooked it all up, and it just like belongs to no one. No, it's for God to taste, as the expression called you or me or whatever we call it. You
Yeah.
see, so all that appears in God's kingdom is for God to experience.
Yeah.
You see, so when we speak of openness and emptiness, and it's an important clarification, we are not talking about what state can come or what state cannot come. It is the freedom for everything to come. You see, but allow yourself to be non-judgmental about it, non-interpretive about it, and you as consciousness can completely do that. You can without needing a reason. You see, without needing a reason. You see, so we looked at peace, we looked at why. What was in the middle?
You.
You no, say the whole sentence again.
So, why are you
Yes,
disturbing my peace?
yes, 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 yes. You see, so doership you spoke about already. Like there's a doer there, there's a doer here, or there's a doer there, and there's an experiencer here. You see, or there's a experiencer there, and there's a doer here.
Yeah.
You see, depending on whether we want to feel guilty or proud. You see, so the positions of the doer and experiencer also keep changing based on these things. But have we found such an agent? You see, and often we've spoken about this, that true surrender means that if we have this kind of if we still have an idea that there's a me and there is God, then we say that you, God, are the one doer and the one experiencer. You see, neither of those have anything to do with me. You see, and truly, even that prayer of surrender brings us to the lack of this distinction between God and myself. You see, so one doer and one experiencer. Who is the doer? Who is the experiencer? The same answer to every why, which is consciousness. You see, the
Mm.
world, this whole waking universe shows up, this manifest play shows up when you are. You see, when the light of your being is shining. You see, so who makes that happen? Who makes the world show up? You see, and if it is this consciousness that makes it show up, you see, then how can anything within that show up with some other light? It must be in
Mm.
the light of the same consciousness, isn't it? So it cannot be that consciousness then said, okay, here you go, world. You see, here are all the planets and all of this. I've done all this for you. Now it's up to you guys. You see,
Yeah.
now you handle it. You see,
Yeah.
and who is that you? The non-existent one anyway.
Mm.
You see,
Mm.
so so that whole that why do you have to do this? So that does this to me. That
Mm.
whole doer and experiencer paradigm, either way, whichever way we play with it, is always bound to get us in trouble. You see,
Mm.
and the fact is that there is no distinction like that. It's just that we take appearances in perception. You see, and we say I am going to draw a line around this appearance in perception using my thoughts to call this me. I'm going to call this Mr. Me or Miss Me. You
Mm.
see, and oh, there's another set of perception there, so let me call that you. You see, but it's all one set of perceptions. You see, in whose light are they all shining? Like
Mm.
Bhagwan so famously said and beautifully said, in whose light do you see the light of the sun? You see? So it is in the light of your own being, in the light of your own consciousness. And everything that happens in this play is on the screen of the same consciousness, in the light of the same consciousness, and consciousness itself watches and enjoys, quote unquote, enjoys that play. See, it doesn't
Yeah.
enjoy it according to our mind's idea of what enjoyment should be. Because many times when we say it is for it to enjoy, you feel like, what enjoyment is this? It's not enjoyment. It's not our idea of enjoyment. You
Yeah.
see, it's part of its own play. It's as part of its own play. You see,
Yeah. Yeah.
why do you do this to me and spoil my peace? You see, so instead of why, if you were to say who is doing what to whom, you see, I feel is very helpful because this is a very common sort of pattern of conditioning, and I'm really spending some time on each aspect of it, so that when it bothers each of you, you can look at it and you can start unraveling it. You see, breaking up these knots, pulling out these knots from any aspect, from any aspect of these notions. And anywhere you start, you see that the whole construct starts to fall apart. The whole construct starts to fall apart.
Even the mind is seen in that light of consciousness, and even
Of
the
course,
belief in the mind is seen in that light of consciousness as well.
of
Yeah.
course, of course, of course. The delusion and the stepping away from the delusion is all part of the play of the same consciousness. Even the getting deluded, even to give truth to the mind and to say that I am this bucket of flesh and blood, I am only this that is you, you are not me. Therefore, the best we can do is have a relationship, but we can't be one. You see, all of this play is part of the same consciousness.
Mm.
You see? So even satsang, the reminder to get out of that play of delusion is just consciousness reminding itself that is playing this game. You see, why? Nobody can say. You see, there is no reason. You see, consciousness is not limited to providing justification. You see, like who said? Some famous scientist said that the universe is under no obligation to explain itself to us. So this why thing is a complete sham.
Mm.
You see, so let me end this particular question with this, which I've said also often. But to get freedom actually is not to get freedom; it is to give freedom. You see, so anytime you find yourself caught up in any condition, find what you are not giving freedom to. Are you giving enough freedom to your partner to be exactly how she wants? You see, so usually what happens with spiritual seekers is, and I say spiritual seekers often because I spent a long time in this life, maybe the longest time in this life, playing one. So I can quickly identify those those constraints. So what happens is that for most spiritual seekers is like the world should leave me alone. Don't they realize that I have the right to be completely free? You see? They have to be like this because I have the right to be completely free. You see? So we want to take away the world's freedom to be exactly how the world is so that I can be how I want. You see? So it is actually the other way around where the world, to get freedom, give freedom to everything. Give freedom to everything, which means you're not judging, which means you're not saying this is bad, you should not do this should not happen, this cannot happen. These kind of ideas can be thrown away. You see, to get freedom actually is to give freedom. And when anytime you feel like something is taking away your freedom, you are not giving enough freedom to that.
Mm.
You see, these can be tough words to swallow, especially in a relationship where we feel like somewhere or the other we end up believing that I'm right about something and the other one is wrong about something. And there can be one or two things where we feel like, okay, it's fine. Whatever Ananta is saying, I'm definitely right about this. and she is definitely wrong about that. You see, and what to do with those? You see, like I was telling another child in the Sangha, I was saying, with those, if you can't get yourself to admit, you see, that you don't really know that you are right or wrong, if you can't get yourself to admit that, and you're clear that you're right, on those things you lose, just lose. You see what I mean? Lose. Like it can, our right and wrong can put us in this battle, right? And
Yeah.
we, in relationships, we're trying to, why can't you see it from my point of view? I'm trying to see it from your point of view, but we're only trying to see it from another's point of view so
Mm,
that quickly we can convince them of our point of view, actually.
mm.
You see, it's never truly, I mean, not never, but mostly not real that way. You see, so those things which you feel like you are absolutely right about and your partner is wrong about, just lose that battle. On
Mm,
those things, just lose that battle.
mm,
What will be taken away from you?
nothing.
Nothing. You see? Nothing. Just agree to be wrong. Now, not fake. Not like, let's agree to disagree. That kind of nonsense. You see? Just agree that I'm not going to win this. I'm going to go along with whatever. Is it go and not go along in the sense of becoming sheep? I'm not talking at this level. I'm speaking just whatever gets in the way of you being conceptually empty and conceptually unattached. And from that emptiness, whatever could come from your mouth or your feet could walk towards or away, it doesn't matter. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm speaking of more that which gets in the way of us just being
Yeah.
conceptually open,
Yeah.
conceptually empty. You see? So, do you notice how the idea of spaciousness or emptiness or peace can actually get in the way of our spaciousness or emptiness or peace?
Yeah. Because it's something that needs to be it's there's a constriction. It's something that needs to be held or
Yeah,
protected, or like um it becomes an object. It becomes
exactly.
you know, it's not the real. It's yeah, it's an idea almost. It's a thought, like
Not
yeah.
almost.
So
It's definitely a thought. It's definitely a notion. You see, definitely a
yeah.
thought.
Yeah, and it's like one idea is attacking this idea of there's an idea of something attacking this idea of peace,
Yeah.
and they can both just be let go of.
If you don't have a relationship with ideas, you can have whatever relationship you want or not. So, nice opportunity. It sounds like, no
Mm,
opportunity. It sounds like to push up all of this stuff and to let go of it.
thank you very much.
Very good, very good. I enjoyed that as well. I enjoyed that.